everybody. It's Amy C. Waninger from Lead at Any Level. There's some weird stuff going on with my green screen, so please forgive me for that. But I wanted to share an experience that I had today with all of you because it feels heavy for me. And I'm realizing how heavy the world feels for some people right now, the world of work in particular. I know the world at large can feel heavy for folks all the time. But this was a real reminder today, what happened. So let me explain to you just a little bit about who I am, and then I will explain to you why I almost left my own webinar in tears. So who I am, my name is Amy C. Waninger. I'm the Inclusion Catalyst. I am the founder and CEO of Lead at Any Level. What we do at Lead at Any Level is we help develop inclusive leaders in organizations that promote from within. Our goal is to help these organizations keep their employees and keep them engaged. And today I was doing a webinar for an association that I'm affiliated with, and there were, a number of people on the call. And the purpose of this webinar was to talk about the labor crisis. Give me 1 second to find this. I'm going to show you just the headline of it. So the headline is Surviving the Labor Crisis, the Urgent Case for Inclusive Leadership. And in this webinar, we talked about kind of 3 high points. The first is the data behind the labor crisis. Why are there so many open positions right now? And I'm going to tell you right now, it's not because people don't want to work. It's because we just don't have enough people. And I have, kind of 4 data points on why that is. If you're interested in the content of this webinar, by the way, it's all available in my book. Let me go back here. In my book, Surviving the Labor Crisis. This is available on Amazon, or you can download it for free at leadatanylevel.com. But let me go back. Sorry. So I did this webinar on surviving the labor crisis, and we talked first about, why are there so many people missing from the workforce? Why are there so many empty seats in these organizations? The second kind of learning objective was around the hidden cost of turnover. So what is it really costing you to have empty seats in your organization? And, some of those are hard costs. Some of them are opportunity costs. Some of them are morale costs, but they all have sort of a compounding effect on one another. And a lot of times we don't talk about those costs when we talk about the cost of hiring someone, right? We don't think about the cost of not hiring someone. And then finally, we talk about if we need to reduce turnover because turnover is costly, what can we do for that? And one of the ways that we can reduce turnover is by investing in our leaders, because we know that even though we have high potential people in our high potential team members, high potential talent, right, in our organizations, we don't always have trained leaders, and high potential employees are not necessarily born with the skills they need to lead diverse teams effectively. So let's be really clear about that. You can be very skilled as an employee and not have the tools that you need to lead diverse teams effectively. Now, the good news is those are all skills that can be learned too. But companies aren't really usually training for those skills. They aren't developing their people in those ways. And the webinar went great. Let me just say, the webinar went great. It wasn't like I bombed the webinar and that's why I was almost in tears. It was nothing like that. The webinar went great. People were very engaged. Lots of, they felt like there were a lot of good insights, a lot of points of data, a lot of good recommendations, a lot of insights that they hadn't thought about, things that, people just hadn't put together for themselves before. And that's great. That's what I'm here for, right? Is to kind of help people think about their work environment and their teams in new ways. Here's the part that made me so sad. And I'm going to make this really big for you for just a moment, because I want to show you the polling questions that I asked this audience. The first was, how has the labor crisis affected your organization? And I asked them, are they trying to grow, but it's hard to fill open positions? Are they experiencing high turnover, especially among younger workers? Have they seen an increase in retirements and therefore lost institutional knowledge as a result of those retirements? And there weren't very many people at the very beginning of the call when I took this poll, but 2/3 of them said all of the above. We are having all of these problems. And that hurt my heart a little bit, because that's a lot for folks to be dealing with, right? We're trying to grow. We can't fill our spots. On top of that, we've got turnover. We're trying to keep people in their seats. We can't even keep them, much less grow. And then some of the people that are leaving are some of our most knowledgeable people, which is then causing a drain on the organization's productivity because we don't have the knowledge we used to have. That's a lot for folks to deal with. And if you're in an organization, you're probably dealing with some of those things right now. And if you're a leader, you're probably dealing with multiple of those things right now. And if you're in HR, you are probably seeing all of the above. So that was the first thing that was sort of just a little bit of weight on my heart as I heard that, people are really struggling with this. The good news is, this was a timely topic for them. But the bad news is this is hard. Then I asked them a little later in the presentation, I asked, okay, so how's your organization responding to these problems that you've just told me you have? And the questions and the options were, we're trying to do more with less and stressing out our team. We're scaling back on our client roster or product service offerings. We're increasing our investment in technology. We're outsourcing, offshoring, or engaging, introducing temp labor. Those were the options I gave them. 100% said they're trying to do more with less. All of them. We're not scaling back on anything. We're not adding people other places. We're not investing in tech enablement, right? We're just trying to just pedal faster with the few people that are left. That's tough. So then I was feeling even, my heart felt even heavier, right? Because not only do we have all these problems, but we're not really getting the resources as teams, as companies, as organizations, as departments to deal with the problems. But then I asked a third question, and this is the one that really broke my heart. The third question I asked was, how are you supporting your leaders right now? Your emerging and aspiring leaders right now. So think about this. We've got all these folks leaving, right, to retirement. The biggest chunk of our workforce is exiting the workforce. And we're asking people to step up into leadership roles that have never had leadership roles before. How are we supporting them? And the options I gave them were, we train on leadership skills before we promote them to management, right, which would be the ideal. We train new managers within a year or two of being promoted. We assume new managers will figure it out eventually. And then kind of as a joke, does LinkedIn Learning count? Spoiler alert, LinkedIn Learning does not count as a talent development strategy. It's a great tool. It's a great enhancement to your talent development strategy, but it can't be the only thing. And I'm happy to talk about why that is whenever you're ready to have that conversation. But here's the thing that really broke my heart. And that is that in this question, 100% of participants said, they're kind of on their own. We just let them figure it out eventually. And we hope that they do. Now, if you go back to the beginning about people leaving, it's no wonder folks are leaving organizations. It's no wonder turnover is a problem. You've got managers who are untrained, who are kind of left to figure it out. They're doing it without the tools, without the technology, without the staff, without the space, or without scaling back on other initiatives, right? We're talking about a time with, the pace of change is increasing all the time. So not only are we experiencing more change, we're experiencing more change faster all the time. And we're not even giving our leaders the support that they need to lead this. Anyway, I left just feeling like, I appreciated the candor that these folks brought to this conversation, but my heart broke for them because that's a lot. That's a lot to ask of someone. It's a lot to ask of your people to do more with less, to not give them any tools to help, to not recognize the burden and the stress and the burnout, and to just keep expecting people to do more and more all the time, even with more complexity, more change. Whew. So if that's your organization, if your organization sounds like they, some of these answers track, let's talk, reach out, let's talk, and let's figure out a way we can help. Because we have, at Lead at Any Level, we have assessments to help you figure out who feels included, who doesn't, and why. We have assessments to help you identify the strengths of the people on your teams. We have assessments to help you figure out how people communicate, how they work best together. We have tools to help you, you know, with emotional intelligence, with managing conflict, with intercultural competency. All these assessments can be used to kind of pinpoint, target, and cure some of the pain points that you're having. We offer advisory services from strategic down to policy, all the way down to super practical, go implement this and report back kinds of advice. Like, we can help with that. And we also offer the training and the development programs and the context and the best practices that your leaders need, your emerging, aspiring, and established leaders, to help them lead diverse teams effectively. Because let's face it, what they did 10 years ago is not going to work today. The whole world has changed. And the weight of that, I think, is hitting people pretty hard right now. So if you're in an executive role, in a leadership role, check in with your folks, see how things are going. If you have the capacity to offer some relief for the stress of the workplace, if you have some capacity to make things easier on folks, if you have capacity to engage with a partner that is uniquely situated, to help, I am trying to find my way back to the screen, uniquely situated to help you navigate this crisis, to keep your employees and keep them engaged, to transform your reclusive nerds into inclusive leaders, so they can keep their teams whole and innovate and do all of the things that you need them to do to survive and thrive in the next decade. Let's talk. And here I can put in the chat, I think I've got a banner even on how you can work with us. If this is something that you are struggling with in your organization, go to workwithlaal.com and let's just talk about what's going on. I would love to learn more about what's happening in your organization, how you're dealing with it, and where there might be some opportunities to make life a little bit easier for you and your teams. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Keep plugging away. Y'all are doing great. And if it gets to be too much, let us help. Take care.